Good evening, I'm Lucrezia Minerini. This is ITV News London. A Deptford man has finally returned home after spending 16 months in a Greek jail for a crime he didn't commit. Miles Lichmore Dunbar was arrested last summer in Crete and charged with killing another teenager from London in a fight outside a bar. He always protested his innocence and was finally cleared in court last week. He told our senior correspondent Ronke Phillips how happy he is to be home.
This is the type of things I dream about.
It was the little things like his favourite ice cream which Miles Lichmore Dunbar missed the most. Now, after a year and a half behind bars, the nightmare is behind him. The 20-year-old is free and back in South London.
What's weird is it's not weird. It feels this is what I'm supposed to be, you know. I've had 16 months of my life taken away, but back, and it just feels normal. You know, I'm walking around and obviously things are different, but this is where I'm supposed to be, it's home, you know.
The student's life was turned upside down in July last year. He was on holiday in Malia when a mass brawl broke out and teenager Tyrell Matthews Burton was stabbed to death. Miles found himself arrested and charged with murder.
I did not murder Tyrell. I'm completely innocent, 100% innocent. 100%.
Miles protested his innocence in an interview with ITV News, and the Greek court decided he was telling the truth when he maintained he'd only arrived at the scene later and had tried to break up the fight.
Do you remember doing that interview?
I remember doing that interview. I was positive in the sense that I knew I was going to go home, but you know, in prison it's survival. You got to be thinking survival all the time because you're around dangerous people, you're around certain type of people. So you're not going to be yourself. I wasn't myself. I haven't been myself for the last 16 months.
Sharon Matthews, the mother of the dead teenager, is now calling for a new trial.
If that happened, would you be prepared to go back to Greece and give evidence?
Because of how I was treated, I really wouldn't want to go back to Greece. But I think it's vital for the family to find out who done it. I mean, I've had justice. They haven't had justice. The right person needs to be found. I feel like he's out there and he's been hiding. I feel like he was watching me rot in prison, and that to me, that touches me. You know, that I was in there for something that he done. He's done something and he needs to be punished. It's good. It's just good to be back, you know.
The fight isn't quite over for Miles. He was convicted of a fray and is appealing. But his focus is now on his future. He had a terrible experience but is determined to move forward. Ronke Phillips, ITV News.
London schools are outperforming the rest of the country because of hard-working pupils from ethnic minorities, according to a new study. The Bristol University report found the pupils are pulling grades up above the national average, but it also suggests that the huge investment in the capital schools in recent years has had little effect. Here's Gareth Owen.
They call it the London effect. Pupils across the city improving faster, getting better grades than anywhere else in the country. But why? A new report claims it's less about money and teaching, more about the high number of children from ethnic minority backgrounds.
I think there is evidence to suggest that children who come from families who recently immigrated into the UK tend to have higher aspirations, more ambition, and may have higher expectations for what school can do for them.
At the Sacred Heart Catholic School in Camberwell, there is no shortage of ambition.
I just want to achieve for myself. I want good achievement so that I can be proud of myself and what I've done.
Knowing that you're going to get a good result at the end of it, like not just you, but you and the people around you, it kind of pushes and encourages all of you guys to work well and work hard to get to that point.
But the head teacher says it's nothing to do with ethnic background. The report is just an excuse.
I think it's a nonsense, quite frankly. I remember sitting at meetings 10, 12 years ago where all these so-called advantages were being cited as disadvantages. I wonder if this is people looking for excuses for failure outside of London.
But the figures do suggest pupils from ethnic minorities are doing better. Take them out of the statistics and suddenly London's schools don't look quite so impressive. Improvements which had been put down to Labour's London Challenge reform 10 years ago might, it's claimed, have more to do with ethnic diversity.
Everyone I've spoken to about London Challenge has been very, very positive about it and very enthusiastic about it changing schools in London. And I think that unanimity carries weight and deserves respect. All I'm saying in this report is that it's proving difficult to find a reflection of that change in the attainment data.
Other parts of the country are trying to copy London's success. Today's report creates new doubts about how it was achieved. Gareth Owen, ITV News.
The police watchdog is investigating Essex Police over its alleged failure to act on intelligence about indecent images of children. In September, it was revealed that a Southend teacher, Martin Goldberg, had secretly filmed pupils at Thorpe Hall School, but the force had been passed information on him months earlier. Goldberg killed himself after being visited by police. A planned extension of the Northern Line has been given the go-ahead by the government today. Transport Secretary Patrick McLaughlin approved plans to extend the line through Nine Elms to Battersea power stations. The two new stations could be open by 2020. TfL says the £1 billion extension will create thousands of new homes and jobs. Next, is London about to throw away its Olympic legacy? That's what some politicians say after a report found people in the borough which holds the Olympic Stadium are the least active in the country. But Newham's mayor says the legacy is alive. It will just take time. Here's our political correspondent, Simon Harris.
It's one of the golden rules of sporting achievement. No gain without pain. And at Newham Leisure Centre, they were being pushed hard in this exercise class. So it was something of a shock to learn Newham is the most inactive place in Britain.
I was surprised because all the classes I go to, there's a lot, it's always packed.
But according to a survey by the charity UK Active, 40% of Newham's population fails to do even half an hour's moderate exercise a week. And this is one of the host boroughs for the London Olympics, home to the main stadium and aquatic centre. If legacy means anything, it should be on show here. It was one of the key promises made to the British public. The Games would inspire more people to take up sport, as well as leave behind some of the best sporting facilities in the world. Newham's council leader insists it takes time to change people's behaviour, and he wasn't embarrassed by the survey.
It's not embarrassing, it's the way it is. People remember, we have high churn. In some wards, 25% of people weren't here last year, so they weren't part of the Olympic legacy. So it does change. Poorer areas will do worse, but we can point to a whole range of things we're doing, and in the last year we've seen an increase in activity.
Bearing in mind the whole idea of the Olympics, as promoted by people like Robin Wales, the mayor of Newham, was the legacy that was going to come from this £9.3 billion investment. Well, we haven't seen much legacy, have we?
But in the aquatic centre they tell a different story. 800,000 swimmers and divers will have used it by the end of the year.
If you take, for example, our swimming lessons, which are about 4,000 people on lessons and courses, 80% of those are local people coming from the surrounding boroughs.
Local Olympic athlete Jeanette Quachi thinks despite the Games, people don't know what's available.
I think you've got the big Olympic swimming pool and people think, oh, maybe, it's not for me, or we maybe not be able to use it, but you can go out there and you can use the facilities.
Whatever the reasons, no one can take comfort from Newham's new status as the Olympic borough with England's highest level of inactivity. Simon Harris, ITV News, Newham.
Now, they are historic London streets we've all heard of, but you'll never look at Pall Mall and Birdcage Walk in quite the same way when you found out how they got their names. National Geographic has been exploring the meaning behind dozens of the capital's famous streets. One even got its name because it was once used as a public toilet. Well, you can take a tour of some of the most intriguing places and learn more about the streets near you by going to our website at the usual address, itv.com/London. Right, let's take a look at the weather forecast now. Here's Manali Luca.
The seasons make our suits. New Covent Garden Soup sponsors the ITV London weekday weather.
Hello there, good evening to you. With the exception of the odd isolated shower, most places dry overnight tonight, clear spells and another mild night ahead. And not a bad start to the day tomorrow morning, a dry start to the day, perhaps even a few breaks in the cloud to give us some bright spells, mainly across eastern counties. Out towards the west, the clouds starting to build, the wind freshening up through the course of the day as well, and that's ahead of a band of rain to push in through the latter part of tomorrow afternoon, but it will be a wet and a windy end to the day. Have a good night. Bye-bye.
New Covent Garden Soup sponsors the ITV London weekday weather.
Finally tonight, he's used to being spotted in Hollywood, but now film star Morgan Freeman has been granted the freedom of the City of London. The Oscar winner was given the honour in recognition of his achievements in acting and for his charity work. The award also gives him some unusual privileges, like being allowed to herd sheep over London Bridge. And that is it from the London team tonight. We'll be back on air tomorrow morning with updates throughout Good Morning Britain from 6 a.m. But for now, have a very good evening. Bye-bye.